Hello, listeners, and welcome to the very first inaugural episode of Summer Hot Topics presented by Champion Life Center Guelph. Yeah. We are a local church recording right here from Guelph, Ontario in beautiful Canada, and with me is an even more beautiful set of people. I have here with me a beautiful set of people here with me. And before we begin diving into the topics and all the things we have planned for our beautiful listeners today, we have a fun icebreaker game to do first. Yeah. Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
For those that are listening with the audio version, just use your imagination real well. I will show everyone here a baby photo, and our job is to guess who it is. Once we guess who it is, that person will then introduce themselves to the rest of the listeners. All right, the first one we have up today is this.
Oh.
Huh.
Definitely you.
Wait, no, it's Mila.
I think it's Mila. I think it's Mila.
Is it Briner?
And the panelists can confirm or deny who they are. It is me.
Oh.
You want to introduce yourself?
I thought the person who got it right was okay, yeah. I'm Mila. I don't know where to look, but
Look at me.
okay.
Right
My
into my
name's
eyes.
Mila. And we agreed that we would do favorite food. So for me, my favorite food is my mom's buko pandan, which is like a type of dessert, Filipino dessert. You can Google it if you want.
Aw. Very nice. All right, second one we have here.
It's obviously Briner.
It's Brian to our live studio audience as well.
Wow.
Any guesses?
It looks like Anna.
Yes.
And who's the mom of Anna?
Anna's mom.
Happy.
Yeah, that's me. So I'm happy, very happy, and okay. And my favorite food is sushi.
Very nice.
Yes.
Very nice. All right, next photo I'm going to show the studio audience first. Change it up a little bit. Change it up. All right, showing our crew now.
Which one? The one holding the baby? Is that Angel?
Janelle.
Oh, wait.
Ding, ding, ding. It is Janelle.
Wow.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, is that Nelsa?
Earlier.
No.
Oh.
I'm Janelle, and my favorite food changes every day, but I'm going to say milkfish or bangus.
Yeah.
All right, next up.
So cool.
Handsome boy.
Handsome boy.
It's Josh.
Josh, yeah.
Wow.
Look at it.
Backwards tie.
Got the dance move already with that pose.
I like his stance. His stance.
It is a very swaggy baby picture. All right, next up.
Wait.
Sorry.
He has to introduce himself.
Hi guys, my name is Josh. I love Korean food. Does that count? Is that or you need specific?
I will take
Or-
Korean
okay,
food.
yeah.
Yes.
All right. Last but not least, because some people didn't submit, including myself.
Angel. So cute. I love the hair.
My mom tried to always dress me up like a doll when I was a kid. So, hi everyone, I'm Angel, and I guess my favorite food is my dad's adobo. Listeners, look it up on Google.
Amazing. Some people, including myself, did not submit a baby photo, so we'll just do a brief introduction. I'm Christine, and I will be the host for today, and this is...
Your favorite food?
My favorite food is poutine. I'm a true Canadian.
Wow.
Even though I'd probably said it wrong. Is it poutine? Poutine? Poutine?
Putin is
Something like
in
that.
Russia.
There you are.
Same thing.
We don't talk about it.
Oh no, we're gonna get blocked.
All right. Last but not least.
Hi, I'm Briner, and my favorite food is anything barbecue.
Yummy.
The assorted, like exotic food, like barbecue in Philippines. So
Yum.
look it up.
The charcoal.
Delicious. Highly recommended.
With everything.
Now I know what to cook all of you for your birthdays, I guess. Korean food, just all of it. All of Korean food. Well, Well, the reason I chose at least to do the baby photo as our start is because today's topic is about relationships. And so the first portion, I guess, of the podcast we're going to be talking about is relationships in terms of family. So I thought I would start with baby photos because we're all babies at one point, and we're all born into some type of family, whether that looks like a traditional family or not. Some type of family is something we all can relate to. And speaking about food, I wanted to ask all of you, I think this is the first time all of us have had a conversation similar with this group of people. So I would love to know a bit more about a bit about your family background. So the first question I have, I'm going to throw it out to a specific person in a second, but I would want you to describe what a typical family dinner looked like for you as a child. You know, who was at the table? What kind of food was at the table? Seems like we're all talking about food. Who did the cooking? What were the favorite foods? What did you talk about at the family table? And since I don't want to answer this, I'm going to throw this to my sister, Mila, way up there.
So Christine, I'll share for both Christine and me.
Thank you.
2-in-1 answer. So for my family, which consisted of Christine, me, my mom and dad, and my 2 older brothers, we tried to have like a dinner together as often as we could. My dad did have, like, depending on the day, he might not have come because he had night shifts and stuff like that. But for the most part, I remember as a kid, we would always try and have dinner. We got older and we weren't able to do it as often. But as a kid, I remember we tried. And I think on the dinner table, rice, you know, a staple, staple for dinner. And then my mom was the one who did a lot of the cooking. But my dad did help whenever he was free or able to cook. And I think our food was like a mix of Filipino food and like food that was easy and quick to cook. So like easy made stuff, more so because I think there was like 4 kids and it was hard, I'm sure, for my parents to get something like right away, not exactly gourmet, but that was typically for me what like a family dinner looked like.
Interesting, very interesting.
She's like,
News to me.
totally did
News
not
to
even
me. I'm not
realize.
sure about that one.
Wow.
I'm not sure about that one. You have a sister?
Oh,
She
yeah.
sounds amazing.
She's the greatest host.
All right, I'm going to throw this one. Who should I do next? Ooh. Can I ask Angel? I would love to hear.
Yeah, for sure. So my family actually has been hosting international students for, I don't know, since I was 11. And so at the dinner table, there would always be a different person. And I liked it because I only have one brother. And so I felt like I was growing up with multiple siblings. And I got to learn about different cultures and cuisines and whatnot. And it was usually my dad who was cooking. He works night shift as well. And so before he goes to bed, he would like cook. And then he's like, okay, peace, I'm leaving, I'm gonna go sleep. So yeah, my mom really made it a thing that none of us should eat alone. We should have at least like a parent with us, a sibling, or a student. And it was really nice. I feel like a lot of the most genuine conversations I've had was at the dinner table. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Like being able to have a conversation
Yeah.
with like a different culture whenever you
Yeah,
have a new
exactly.
student.
It was
Sounds
really
amazing.
cool. Yeah, for sure.
Since 11.
Yeah, since 11.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Do you know how many international
I
students?
think I would say probably like 30 plus.
Wow.
Yeah, like 30. Yeah, 30 plus. Yeah, we've had so many people, and it's really cool to meet a lot of different people.
So did
yeah.
your dad ever try to cook like according to the cuisine of those?
He's tried, but a lot of them were like really open to Filipino food and like Canadian food, so it was a good experience. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Really cool. It beats me eating adobo every single night. That's for sure. One more. I'll take one more since I don't want to spend the whole hour talking about dinner table. I would love to hear from one of the boys.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Sure, I'll go. So for dinner, we usually have all 5 of us. So I have 2 brothers, one younger and one older. And I remember when I was in Philippines, we always go back home to lunch to have everyone.
Yeah.
My mom would not give us like allowance for lunch or like prep us meal because she wants everyone at the table. And yeah, that's the culture that they said that to have everyone there. And yeah.
Wait, even at school?
No, like we would go home So my parents would
Oh,
go
you go home for
Yeah.
lunch.
But
and
this
we
was
would
in
go
the
home for lunch.
Philippines.
Yeah, this is in the Philippines.
Yeah, this was in the Philippines because you could go home for lunch. Yeah.
2 hours break or something.
2 hours break.
That's a great lunch.
2 hours break.
Or an hour,
What
I don't
school
know.
did you go to?
Gives you 15 minutes to a nutritional
It was an
break.
hour.
No, it's an hour for us. Yeah. Oh, so that means you live near the school.
Yeah, not too
Okay.
far.
Yeah.
Wow. And who cooked all the time?
Oh, both of them. Yeah, my dad likes fried fish. Prito is that. So
Bangus.
yeah, we always have something fried.
Wow.
Going home in Canada, you have like a 15-minute nutritional break.
Is that the 15-minute
Yeah,
for
it's really
lunch?
short.
15-minute
Sometimes.
snack break and then
30 or
lunch
40.
30, 45
Wow.
minutes.
Yeah. That's why I was like, you ran.
I'm not sure. It's been a long time since I've been in
So
elementary.
you can't go home, but in high school you can't leave the school, right?
Yes,
yes.
Yeah.
But it's too much of a hassle sometimes, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So is it still 45 minutes for lunch break high school?
I think it's an hour.
Oh, it's an hour. Okay. Was that in high school? Yeah. Because you wouldn't
Elementary,
be
too.
allowed to. Oh, you'd be allowed to leave the school.
Elementary.
Okay. Wow.
Independent man.
Was your house like right beside the school?
No, we literally have to.
You lived at the school?
2-minute walk.
We have to
He's
commute.
running.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's nice.
That's nice.
I would have liked to eat lunch at home versus
Yeah.
like a cold. Just kidding. I loved all the meals my mom prepared.
Your mom is listening right
My
now.
mom, if you're listening, I loved every single meal.
No, sometimes I get jealous too because all my friends would have money to buy food, and it's right there.
It's always like
and
that.
they always have like a circle of friends to eat. I was like,
Yeah.
but no, I can't. I'm going home.
You're,
Did
you're
you have
richer
like
in your
the
mom's
stay at school crew and then those that went home
Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
segregated between the two?
Yeah.
It's nice though that you get to go home.
Yeah.
And speaking, I just mentioned my mom earlier. I wanted to ask. It's a bit of a harsh transition here, but thinking about childhood, I think when I personally think about when I was a kid, there's a lot of fondness that I remember. I have a lot of fondness for the way that my parents raised me, but I think every single person has like a few things that they wished, like, not they wished were different, but a few things that if I were to have kids in the future, I would like this to change. And that's not necessarily because we think our parents were bad parents.
Yeah. We're not bashing parents.
We're not bashing parents. I think there is just a natural sometimes shift in the way that parents have to parent with
That's
the way
true.
that the world shifts.
That's true.
And so this can just be generational differences. So when we're answering this question, and if our parents are listening, I don't want it to seem like we're bashing on your parenting. It's just a sign of the times, I feel, when we talk about parenting styles that are different. Like giving Josh's example, like he was able to go home for an hour and his parents were okay with that. But I know my parents weren't okay with that.
Yeah.
And that's not a look on one parent was right, one parent
That's
was
right.
wrong. It was just a difference in the cultures that we grew up in.
Yeah.
So my question, I guess I'm going to throw it out to those who haven't talked yet, is when thinking about raising your own children. A lot of us don't have children here, but in the future, thinking about raising your own children, what is something that you would, I guess, want to replicate, like something you really appreciated your parents doing and you would want to do with your kids? And what is one thing that you're like, I need to change that for the kids that I want to raise? Hypothetically speaking, because some of us don't have children, but it's kind of
Most of
thinking, most thinking into the future. So one thing that you would like to replicate and one thing that you would like to change.
Yeah. So, thing that I would replicate would be the unconditional love that they give and the sacrifices, all the sacrifices they did just for us, and the things that they gave up is you can't like measure it. And also to replicate that, to have God in the center of the family. This should be my first answer, my bad. But yeah, growing up, it was one thing that was really nice. And one thing to change would be comparison problem. So all my life, I was compared to my siblings, other people, and yeah, the don't compare. Every single child is different. Don't compare one sibling to another or to another person, because it's literally going to build up anxiety, depression, or thinking that like, oh, I should live that way, right? Or I don't have that thing in my life. So insecurities, it build up. So like you get really shy, you get really insecure to do things, but it's when you understand who you are and what God tells you who you are, right? That's when he can fully use you in the kingdom of God. And because like, oh, like they're asking me to do this, but like I'm not that good, or, you know, because like all those things.
We just really dove deep there.
Can you give like maybe like some examples of like comparisons that you heard maybe even growing up?
Like compared to my brother, like he's doing so good in school or something like that, or they got into like a better school or something like that, or so
but do they explicitly say like compare, or is it like indirectly compare? I'm
both.
curious.
A little bit both.
Okay.
So even when I was an only child, I didn't have any siblings to be compared to, but I definitely remember being compared, as you said too, in both ways. Like, oh, like I think they were trying to make it a positive influence, but sometimes it's just that competitiveness, or like I'm not good enough, sinks in, because like, oh, look at them, they can already do this at this age, and you're like, do you want me to? But I remember having a conversation with some of my friends in high school, and they grew up in Canada, and with their parents, they didn't really have that intense pressure. Sometimes I don't think it's like they're trying to exert it, but they just want you to become the best you can be. And I remember that they had very lax expectations placed on them. And then they were even expressing a little bit of regret that I wish my parents would have pushed me a little bit harder, because I know I didn't reach my full potential. Like I was allowed to slack off. So what's the kind of balance that you would implement of like, yes, like I love you for who you are, and like I accept you, but like you can be pushed to be better, because I would want that as well. Like I don't want to be left like just as a kid. I think my parents found a good balance with that, but I definitely felt the sting as well. I think just from like the culture from where we grew up of like you should do well because your parents sacrificed, so to make it worth it.
Ooh, that's a whole can of worms.
Agreed.
Yeah. Can I say something? That's a good point there in terms of like, you know, how do you put a balance of not being too lax, but also not pressuring. But I think I want to take a step back in terms of like sometimes understanding also as we grow up, especially through teenage years. Part of that development is actually finding out who we are. And in those moments, we are so vulnerable because we're not sure of who we really are, who we want to be. And I think that sometimes when parents say things with good intentions, because the receiver of those words is not sure of who they are, that it stings us because it kind of highlights us more that we really don't know who we are supposed to be. And so even though parents may not, now granted, I'm going to be realistic, there are parents that really compare. And I have met parents that really do compare. And so that we're not talking about that. We're talking about, parents that really just want to push you to be the best of, they see your potential, they see your capacity, and they're right, or they talk about, they celebrate the wins, they celebrate the achievements of someone, and they're not necessarily comparing you, but because you're not sure of who you are, that's how your filter is. Then you're feeling even more. There's a lot of insecurities growing up, right? That's the natural process of growing up. Everybody goes through that. And I think when it's valuable, though, in those moments, that when your child, your future child, is in that stage and then they receive your words as if you're comparing them, that it's important that they be able to express that.
Yeah.
I think that's where the difference makes, because understanding intentions makes a whole difference in terms of like, are you trying to compare me with this? Then you can clarify as a parent, right?
So like give your child the tools to express. It's like, do you mean this?
Yes.
Or you can further explain.
Yeah, right. I don't know. What do you guys
What do
think?
you guys think?
I think, yeah, in terms of like having that medium or that environment where your child is able to express themselves, because that's such a big thing. I'll kind of go back to the topic and everything like that. One of the things that my family did, which is not conventional from what I hear of other Filipino families, is that we have family talks, and that if there's a conflict or if there's a fight, I remember even if I didn't even want to look at my dad or look at my mom, they forced themselves in my room and we had to like literally talk it out. I'm just like, oh, but like, yeah, pass me, crying and like them explaining. And then if there was fights between siblings, like the whole family was there. And sometimes it'd take the whole night just like talking it out. I think having that can really be a big medium in allowing you to understand. Because for my parents, they never really like had that express like, oh, you have to do this, or like these like really like, you know, Asian stereotype like excellence sort of goals. But they wanted it so that we did the best that we could. Like if we did a test, you did everything you could to the best of your efforts. If it's not as great a score as you want, then that's okay because you tried your best. So that was what I found for my family. Do I also have to answer the other question too?
I think it's more of like I think the comparison piece is really important because a lot of young people really go through that and they even like struggle going past that stage, right? Like
at this point, I sometimes like what people think is really important to me, because at young age, like I needed it.
Especially when we hear people saying like, what are they going to think if you do this? If you fail, what are they going to... That is so hard. That sticks. Yeah. Did you... I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, it definitely sticks. I like just adding on to that. Yeah, the comparison thing. I feel like especially when you're a kid, like a lot of the things that adults and older people say to you, like tend to stick. And I know for me, like a lot of things that people have said to me when I was like 5, I still like kind of carry it because it wasn't like addressed, or if there was a conflict I had with my parents regarding comparisons, we never really kind of like talked it out. It was just kind of like, okay, just forget about it. But obviously that wound is still kind of like festering, you know, and like I feel like it surfaces even greater when you become an adult, where like now you have to deal with not just your parents but other types of relationships, right?
Yes, so true. That's true. You were just getting on it.
I know. I was like, I was leaning in even more.
That's true. It bleeds into other relationships.
It really does. Yeah, like you don't even notice it. Like I feel like this is probably another question, but like
no worries.
The relationship you have with your mother or father, or if whether it was good or not, you can see it seep into friendships, your significant other, and even your kids later on.
That's
so it's
true.
it's really important to talk things out and cut off conflict. Yeah,
I know. I think what you just said right now, like cut off conflicts, I think the problem comes when it goes unresolved.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times when parents and even individuals, when we hurt someone, our response is often to be like, well, I didn't intend it to be like that. And then it gets brushed off like that. And so the child, even though they really feel hurt, they're like, well, my parents didn't intend for that, but I still feel really hurt by that.
Yeah.
And then that festers into...
Yeah, I feel like sometimes kids can't even say things because parents will be like, oh, you're talking back, right? Like, I feel like a lot of people feel that. It's like you're talking back, and like, it's like, okay, well, I can't express how I feel, you know? So it's just, okay, we can't solve it. All right.
Oh, that's such a big thing. It's like a respect thing. But
Yeah, exactly.
we also are like, we're coming at it with respect.
Yeah.
Which is hard to communicate
hard.
with different like generations and different cultures.
That's true.
Because, like, sorry, Dad, but like my dad was a big, like, we really respect my dad. We have fear of the father. But then there's also a part where we also want to be able to express our side. And it's not like we're trying to demean his authority or anything, but it's more so explaining our side. And that took years for it to like get to a point where we're able to have that conversation, but we still have to go at it at like with respect and respecting his authority in a way, which is such a hard balance, and it takes a hard balance
Because it's a hard balance with all the emotions.
Yeah,
too.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, especially with our dad, when it comes to the respect thing, he always brings it back like, oh, when we were kids, like we couldn't even say anything. Like
his model.
Yeah, like his model was like not being able to say anything that would criticize his parents. And so when we come at it from a loving place, like he has no model for it. So I think that's where conflicts often arise. But
Yeah, for me growing up, like I can totally relate to the talking back part because I grew up with my grandparents in Philippines, and they're really old school. So if any conflict, they're always right. So if ever I like try to explain, even just trying to explain like well, I'm just doing this because of that, low voice, that's already talking back.
Wow. Even with low voice.
Yeah, it's like, what did you say?
Maybe you were not really.
I was not very
Respectful.
respectfully grumbling.
Yeah.
With all due respect, with eyes rolling. yeah.
But as I like grew older, maybe like when I was like 17 and going up and spend more time with my mom, then as you grow older, it's easier to communicate with your parents because you can articulate more of your like emotions. You don't just like throw a fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Not just
Yeah.
not cry all the time, but actually explain. This is what's going on, and I'm explaining it to you right now. Hope you understand.
Yeah.
And,
What if I'm crying while I'm saying?
I cry while I say
Yeah, explaining.
You
I can do that too.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you don't have to hold back your emotions. It's kind of like that's what you're going through, and you just let it out to your parents.
Yeah.
If they love
Yeah.
you, they'll understand.
Yeah, when I was writing my answers, I was like, "Oh, I'm just complaining what, like, like my childhood." But like, there's a lot of things that that's how they grow up,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
that's how they learn. And so, like, obviously they learned it, so they're gonna.
Yeah.
That's what they do. That's what we're gonna do. But there's a lot of things that we can bring up and introduce to our parents.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah, parents learn and change. They learn and
parents
change,
can change.
especially with
Yes.
as you grow older.
Yes.
It's difficult to do it, but yes.
Yeah.
Slow and steady.
Have you guys ever noticed like a big change in your parents from when you were like a kid
Yes.
versus now?
It's so interesting to see
It's really cool,
your
yeah.
parents as a person.
Wow.
It's
Parents
like-
as a person. How did you see your parents before?
as my parents. you know what I mean?
Oh.
Yeah, it's like mom and dad,
Wow.
and it's like, oh, like you are a whole separate human being with your own hopes, dreams, emotions, and yeah, it's
So like
interesting.
you can have a like conversation with them as an adult.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's
Yeah.
totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah, they learn too. They learn and evolve.
Before moving on, that was just an answer to one question. That was just one, and we went deep. Did anyone else want to answer the question? Thank you, Josh. That really opened up a lot for the conversation.
That's right.
The original question was if you could change something from your parents, from your upbringing, from the way your parents parented you, if you could change one thing, and then one thing you would want to replicate.
For me, like to replicate, like I said earlier, I grew up with my grandparents, and they had a farm. So like there was like every summer when I was like probably 5 until I was 11, like we always go to the farm, and like that's every summer, like every weekend in the summer, check out the farm. So it's like exposing to the outdoors, like outdoor stuff. So I think that like stuck with me, and that's something that I would do someday. If I have a kids, like I would like bring them to BC, you know, British Columbia.
Biner just had like a 4-month sabbatical of like picking mushrooms in the wilderness. So
Well, especially
there's some
like,
context.
around this like day and age too, where like, you know,
A lot of gadgets.
technology
Yes.
is just like it's like a rabbit hole where
Yeah, tunnel
you can
vision.
just swipe up or whatever, like
Or swipe
scroll
left.
through. You do it, I guess. But yeah, like my point is like it changes the mind when you're out there without any technology, because your mind tries to find something. I guess that's why like for me personally, I'm susceptible to like social media, because like I like, okay, what's going on in the world and all that, but it's not really important, right? Like there's no well, you're just entertaining yourself. But when you're out there like in the wilderness, like outdoors, it's just like, okay, I'm here, and you know, like you could appreciate, wow, like this, like, you know, like the nature
Yeah.
is so complex, but it's just like it's there available, right? Like I'd rather spend more time like outdoors than sit at home.
Yeah, that's the one thing about social media. I feel like it's taken us from a community focus, which is I think more of like how our parents grew up, because like the people you had around you, like were the people at school, were the people at your work, or the people that you saw on the weekend. But now, I guess in the age of social media, it brings like a double-edged sword of now people feel like they're part of the global community. Like they feel more like that citizen of the world kind of thing. And then I feel like we're less focused on it's like who is with me in the here and now, and how can I directly impact like the people around me, because I can say I don't even talk to my neighbors. I kind of like hide from them, but like or even just say hi and then quickly run in. But yeah, I just feel like, and then now people are way more drawn to people like them but far away.
That's true.
Interesting.
So would you say that, do you think social media and the internet has made your relationships, your friendships more authentic, or would you say they've become less authentic?
What do you mean by authentic?
Yeah. Define authentic.
Define authentic. Let me Google it real quick. Do you feel as though
The connection?
the connections are real connections when they're online? Do you feel like it's the same as having like someone really in person there with you, or even your in-person friends? Like how social media has played into your relationship with your like in-person friends?
For me, for social media, it's like what Janelle was saying. It's like a double-edged sword where I'm able to keep track and get updated from like those who are further away, those who I don't see very often, and it gives me a means of connecting with them through the comments or through their stories. But then it's also where it feels like there's always like people are trying to show their best side. So you never really know how authentic it is or how real the connection is. And really, I feel that the connection is through being able to see them in person.
Yes.
Like even like online friends who meet through online eventually meet in person. It's not like
Exactly.
there's something different
Yeah.
about it, being able to physically see them versus like social media. And I don't even like post that much on social media. So it's different in that like I'm able to also use like Messenger on Facebook to communicate with other people too and keep in touch, but it's also like different seeing them in person and being intentional to see them in person, if that makes sense.
For me, like nothing beats in person. Like there's that saying or whatever that the larger percentage of communication is nonverbal, right? So it's such a big aspect for me at least. If I hang out with people in person, like their the way their body language has like their own inflections, like their facial expressions. So that's really important to me. It's still kind of lost in Zoom, and I feel like I feel like that has definitely hindered.
It's like a laggy face
The
to
body
face.
language is lagging.
I did not like Zoom.
You're like, ha ha ha, and then later on, not the same. Not the same.
But I do feel like there's a certain. I feel like some people can take the comfort in that it's not face to face. So I remember having conversations with people that are like, oh, I don't even know if we would talk about this in person because it's so vulnerable, but you get to kind of hide behind that screen, and it's so easy just to send it instead of like facing them. What do you think?
I guess it's like, especially like what you said, if it's you're not comfortable speaking in person with like that topic, like it gives you more time, right? There's like that buffer, or like you can think and
But it's
write
a real
properly at
skill.
the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, social media is definitely a tool to like communicate. But as we can all agree, nothing beats in person. Yeah. It's just nice to hang out, right? Like in person.
It is nice. This would be really awkward on Zoom personally for me if we would record this on
Podcast on Zoom.
That's true.
I think one thing that Briner mentioned that really stuck out to me, it's like it can be a good thing, like being able to communicate online, because it gives you a bit of a buffer to like talk about conversations or talk about topics that you wouldn't normally be comfortable talking with in person, like being able to collect your thoughts and to send a text to someone. Sometimes it's easier for some people versus telling that to them in real life, but I also think that can have consequences.
Should you be texting people something you wouldn't be willing to say
In
to their
person,
face?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you should not.
There's the answer.
Spoiler, you shouldn't.
That's right.
Wait
Fair
for
enough.
the metaverse where you can actually
There you go.
How was your day?
How was your day?
Yes.
I am quite triangular.
Wait, let me change my outfit real quick.
Change my view too.
I want to change my hair.
I think there's definitely benefits, advantages to being able to communicate across thousands of
Yes.
miles and keep that connection despite the distance, right?
Like some of our church is online.
Yeah, like our
Yes.
church online,
Yes.
like they've really grown a lot, even with just, and there are times where we're like, you know, they haven't had corporate worship together, and it's like this is all on Zoom, and it's like, but they're growing spiritually, and they find ways. I mean, they do meet together in Middle East, like on their own, right? But in terms of like the discipleship, like that's happening. So there are some advantages to that piece, but yeah, definitely different in person. Yeah.
One thing that I've noticed, and I've talked a lot about this topic with Mila, is that Mila and I have a shared experience of being connected online with friends, in which sometimes our friends are in crisis or are and they, instead of going to their parents, instead of going to someone in real life, they often confide with other people their age online, whether it's through texting or through FaceTime. And so Mila and I have the shared experience of like talking down some of our friends from very like serious, dangerous, big emotion situations because we were available to each other on social media versus like, and that is more safe to some young people than it is to go up to their parents and say, I'm going through this hard time, I'm going through all of this. They instead try to confide with their friends. And so I've heard from a lot of my youth that I handle at the church is they don't often know what to do with that their friends will send them these big texts of like, I'm going through a crisis right now and I don't know how to deal with all of this. And so there's one side where we're like, oh, social media can be a tool for us to comfort someone and to share Jesus's light with someone. But I think it can also come to a dangerous point where people start to become codependent or young people start to get scarily codependent on one another instead of confiding in an adult. So I guess the question I'm putting out, just from my own experience, even asking on my own behalf of someone who grew up on the internet, growing up on the internet, having these social media relations with my in real life friends, like what do you think is a healthy balance between helping your friend and being the light of Jesus in their life while also maintaining like a healthy friendship where you're not becoming too codependent on one another? What do you think? Is there a healthy balance between that?
Okay.
I have Mila as my point person, so if you wanted to take this one.
I've spoken with her about this many times, but I think one of the things that's so important is to set healthy boundaries. Because like even friendships, it's so easy to be like, you need to share everything, or like you have to depend on everything with whoever is in your friend group. But there comes to a point where you also have to be able to take care of your own health and be able to guard yourself against things that may like unintentionally harm you as a result of the friendship. And so like boundaries, being able to like also have those awkward conversations to express these boundaries, because at the end of the day, it's like you're not equipped and you're not educated to deal with some of these very dangerous situations. Like if there's things where like very dangerous scenarios that you are the sole person in charge, it really does it can do a lot of damage to yourself and like guilt and remorse.
Can we be like specific of the very dangerous?
So where it's like their suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. Or like very big panic attacks or anxiety attacks. And you being the sole person to only be the person to reach out to is very dangerous, because it's like you're just a kid yourself, but you have to parent another kid.
Yes, what we say. It sometimes happens where like kids end up parenting other kids when they're not necessarily equipped to do that.
I think, though, that's not necessarily. Sorry, I think I'm the oldest in this group. So, but I'm going to say I don't think it's unique to this generation, because even in our time when there was no social media, we would have friendships or relationships like that. There's just not. It's just not done through social media. But the whole codependency thing, I remember that I had a friend that just needed advice all the time, and all the time like needed advice. It's like God is good all the time God is good. And no matter how much advice you give, they just make their own choices that's completely opposite to the advice you give, and they become running crying again. And it's like we had those way before social media. I think social media just made it easier. But I think there's always been those kind of relationships. And I was actually talking to Anna about this on the way here, that the sometimes the extreme reaction to codependency is independence, which is also not healthy, because we're not designed. God did not design us to be either independent or codependent. He designed us to be interdependent. And the difference between codependence and interdependent is that you understand your buckets in your soul. So you have, this is just my through the years, I believe that we have two buckets in our soul. One bucket is designed for relationships with people, and one bucket is designed for your relationship with God. And sometimes codependence actually happens when we put the bucket designed for God to our relationships with people, instead of just the bucket with people for people to fill, instead of using just that. So we expect what God can only fill, we expect it from others. That's when codependence happens. But interdependence is we're using buckets designed for our relationships, because we were designed to be in relationship, in community, right? So there are things that you can contribute to my people bucket, my people relationship bucket, that God designed for you to fill. There are things in your people relationship bucket that I'm designed to fill, but I can never fill your God bucket. And that's where unhealthy relationships happen, when people put in their God bucket and expect people to fill that. So that's where codependence happens. So I was explaining to Anna that, when you are interdependent, you're coming into a relationship ready to contribute, not sucking. Whereas if you're in a codependent relationship, it's always sucking. And you're sucking from each other's buckets, right? That's the difference. And I don't know if you want to say anything to that. So
like in a practical sense, like how do you think that looks like to set those, like, I don't know. Boundaries is, I guess, the word.
I think it's having those awkward conversations that Milo was saying, right? Like you gotta at one point explain to them that what you are actually needing is something that I cannot fill. Having those honest conversations, and I really would want you to be filled with that. Can I point you to Jesus? Actually, and that friend of mine that I was talking about in high school, I brought her to youth group, and it did not really, like it took time, but now she's passionately serving the Lord in the U.S. Wow. Like she's so active, and I am just so glad that seed was sown, and she's learned to, So I think having those honest conversations really, and it's not fair that you're expected to be parenting your friends, right? So you got to also be responsible enough to draw the line. I think. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Someone else want to add on that?
That was very well said.
If no one has anything else to add, listeners, I want to introduce you to a brand new segment on this podcast, which is called Questions from Our Youth. Earlier today, I asked our youth if they had any questions for you guys here. I said that we have a panel of young adults with us. What question would you want answered? And they had a lot of questions for you. So I'm going to play one for you from one of our youth. And I would love to have any of your opinions or questions or thoughts on it. I think. Let me find it.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm going to my first year of high school and I'm really nervous. Do you remember what you were nervous about on your first day of school?
Oh, wow.
Oh, sorry, I almost played it again. The anonymous person may be sitting about 3 feet away from me.
Not so anonymously.
But if you didn't hear it, this was anonymous person, anonymous person. So they were nervous for their first day of high school. Do you remember being nervous for your first day of high school? Briner, do you want to take that one?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it applies to Anna because she grew up here, so she has more experience with with other people that grew up here. Because when I came to Canada 12 years ago, I was 17 and didn't know that much English and still trying to understand the culture, major culture shock. So I was jittery. I'm just gonna share this. I had my entrance exam for ESL, and I was so nervous. I didn't know what to do. That I just puked. I was that nervous. It was pretty intense.
How did it go from being so nervous to the point of puking to you graduating and having? I hear you talking about your friends from your high school a lot, and you still keep in touch with them.
Yes, it was a very slow process. I didn't had many friends, but I had few good friends throughout high school, and one of them was Joshua. There you go. The McCute
true friend.
Yeah, the McCute family, the brothers we were in the same school, so
we go way back.
Yeah, OG, Yanni, Josh, and then Earl. They were the first Filipino students that kind of welcomed me. Aww. So it was pretty cool, and just slow process of meeting people here and there, striking conversation, practicing my English and all that. Mm-hmm. So until I'm still nervous, high school here.
Now he's on a podcast.
So now he's on a podcast. So if someone younger than you is going into high school and they're in your exact position, what advice would you give them? Puke. Get it out.
It's mostly I can't give an advice that properly, I guess, but it's more of finding those people that could help you go through that. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, it's probably tough in high school because everyone's just figuring out who they are at the same time. Yeah. So you guys in the same boat, and some people are way ahead in this socializing and all that, but depends too if you're an introvert or an extrovert.
That is true.
There's a whole different dynamics going on there. So, but mostly, it's just the beginning. Going through high school, it's true. It's true. It's like riding a roller coaster. Pretty much with anything in life, the approach is the worst.
The worst.
Right? It's like you're not like you're anticipating. It's like, oh my god, what's going on? Like, did I wear like the right clothes? Like, oh my gosh, you know, like my Batmobile is close compared to those like Nikes. You know, it's like, wow. But you know, being in high school, you worry about different stuff that eventually, like when you grow up, it's like, oh man, why did I worry about those?
It's true.
Right?
Amen.
So yeah, that's
You're gonna worry about a lot of stuff that just doesn't matter, and so it's fun. Yeah, just go for it.
And I also think like for what Rainer was saying, it's like find the people who will stick with you throughout high school. Because I spent the first 2 years of my high school clinging to my old elementary's like squad, and I don't talk to any of them anymore. But the people that I met in my third and fourth year, I still talk to, and so it's just a matter of like when I went to high school. I used to be such a bookworm and read all the high school young adult novels when I'm like, what if like a supernatural event happened when my first year and this mysterious person vampire stops a car right in front of me, like Edward Cullen, all these things. But at the end of the day, it's also just school. It's a lot similar to elementary, just more things you have to juggle and just stick it with the people you know are gonna stick with you.
Yeah, like that. I would say be malleable with your relationships. Like, expect that you will lose some and that you will gain some. Because I found in high school, some of my elementary friendships were just because I was with them every day for every single class. And that's why we were friends, and that was our connection. But in high school, the ones that are like the real relationships will stay. And then you will make more, and don't be too sad or don't mourn it too much, because it's just gonna happen, and some people are in your life for just a brief period of time, and it's okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, don't change who you are just so you could probably have someone's approval.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, I'm so fortunate to have like a best friend I've had for like over 18 years, and I met different people in high school. And what I realized is if you stay true and authentic and wholesome, people that will vibe with you will just gravitate towards you. And there's no point in like buying expensive clothes that you think other people will like because you won't wear them after, and then they'll sit in the closet and your mom will get mad. But
Fresh wound.
I'm opening. But yeah, no, it's like high school is just 4 years of your life, right? There's so much more to you know, like I was in this position too. I was like, oh, I have to fit in so people will like me. But now that I look back, that was just 4 years of my life, and there's so much more in store. And so stay wholesome, stay genuine, and you will have really amazing friends that will last you a long time.
That's really great.
I'd like to add to that.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, worry about your grades more than people.
Period.
Yes.
Worry about your grades more than people.
There you go.
The grades last.
The parents will like this.
I like that advice.
Friends come and go.
The parents watching are like, yes.
All thumbs up right now. Did you want to add, Josh?
Ditto.
All right. Second question. I feel like it does transition nicer. Our second caller for today comes from...
My question is, hi, my name is Jay. And my question is, what advice would you give to a young Christian who wants to date in high school?
Who do you want to date, Jay?
caller number 60. Who do you want to date? Anyone want to take this one? Any advice?
Juicy. The juicy part.
Ooh.
You're getting there.
The juicy
The
part.
meat and bones of this podcast.
Juicy is for Josh.
Okay. Don't flirt to convert.
Period.
But Josh, he has abs. But Josh has been to church. She's been to church, bro. It's okay.
But Josh, his parents are Catholic.
True. But it's really important to find someone or intentionally, if you are ready, to build a relationship that someone that's in your same level of Christianity or same level of faith. That's when your values and what do you guys want to do, your goal at the end, that it's the same. And if you are someone who think you're ready to get into a relationship, seek God first, know who you are and what He said about you. And don't get in a relationship because you're jealous, right? Because others want to sana all thing. And then be single and secure and know that God wants for you, right?
One thing I want to ask, perhaps it's a different answer for the girls versus the guys. Were you allowed to date in high school?
No.
That's also no.
No.
I say no.
Also no. What about the boys? Were you allowed to date in high school?
Or was it even mentioned?
Was it even mentioned?
Was it talked about?
Once. It was talked once, but wasn't really strict. Yeah.
So were you allowed or not? You were not sure.
It wasn't like
Explicitly
enforced,
stated.
right?
Okay.
But it was mentioned that like focus school first, and like before getting in a relationship and stuff. We can get into that topic.
I would
if
say
you
like,
guys...
what do you even want from the relationship? Is it something that you want to last you, or is it just something to have fun for now? Is like what are your real intentions for wanting a relationship? Do you just want like the feel good of just like someone who will like validate with you or just like chill with you, or are you really looking for like someone that would last you past?
Yeah, and it's also like, what's the end goal of the relationship too? Like, we want the relationship at the end to go into marriage, but then are you going to be able to do that and have those type of thoughts when you're in high school and you barely know where you're going in life? Theoretically,
it works out.
Sometimes it works
Sometimes.
out. I don't know anyone who had passed high school who are together in high school now, still together. But I don't know. I don't keep in contact with everyone, so maybe, I don't know.
I do know someone who grew up together in church and developed that relationship, and
In high school?
In high school?
like
Oh,
they
in
grew up in
elementary.
church, so like clearly young.
No, but
and
they
then-
were not dating.
No, they weren't
they were-
dating, so
okay.
they built up a relationship and stuff.
They were dating as they were growing up.
3 years old.
And then I think it was in the university when that they made it serious and confessed and everything like that. And yes, I think there's you can find a good balance on, that like strict parents, so like don't date in high school and stuff. Knowing who you are, knowing your goals, knowing who you want to be with, will give you really good standard to pick the right person or pick the person.
I know all the girls said no, but did that no stick when your parents said you weren't allowed to date?
Yes.
I had a lot of mutual understanding relationships, which I found out is called casual dating. But now, is that correct?
Describe the mutual relationship.
So mutual understanding back then is like, we're always talking for hours on the phone when it's lunch break or when it's we call it recess. You're together when the teacher's not yet there. You're together talking together, like you're always together, but you're not really dating, and you're like already sharing everything in your heart and all of that stuff. And we were not allowed to date. So I remember my mom was probably starting to be worried because, like, I already told Anna my kids this, so this is fine. Because there would be nights where I would be like, my parents would be like, hang up the phone now. This is not cell phone, this is landline. Hang up the phone now. And I'm like, okay. And then I tell the person, hang up the phone, then call me after 1 hour, and then I'll stay under the table and wait for the phone call. I'll adjust the ringer, and then we'd talk until like 5 a.m. and all that. And I'm sure my parents knew. So finally, my dad had, when he drove me to school, like he had a talk with me that, you have to be careful. Mutual understanding is actually, more, it actually hurts more because you don't really know what your relationship is, and you have all these expectations, blah, blah, blah. So he gave me a dad talk, and that actually helped me take a step back and did not really cut out. But looking back, it hurt. It did hurt a lot. Like it hurts a lot. But I think what really is what I would say to Jade's question is that, number one, there's nothing wrong with you liking someone, whether that person is a Christian or non-Christian. Like liking is one thing, but I think when you start dating, it's a whole different ball game. And it actually comes with a lot more expectations that you were not expecting. There's a lot of expectations in a dating relationship that you never saw before you entered in. And so I think that if you're ready to be surprised with a lot of expectations that's connected with your emotions, and not just your emotions, but another person's emotions, talk to your parents about it if you think you're ready to go into that. But I would always say, pray about it, but also seek counsel, seek input from people who have had more experience than you, because they do carry wisdom. Make yourself accountable. When my dad gave me that dad talk, I did open up to my dad, and he was basically like, "Yeah, we know." Like, yeah, we know. Like, they all
Parents
know.
always
Like,
know.
like, really?
They see the phone bill.
The phone bill.
Right? Like, but who are you kidding? But then that's the thing, is that there's a lot of risks that, number one, physically and emotionally, you're not yet fully developed to be facing those risks.
Yeah.
That's the one side to this, is that it's not just whether your parents allow you or not. It's your brain. Let's just go into physiological development. It's not fully ready to enter into those kind of commitment levels and expectations and risks. Yeah.
I believe it's called the talking stage. We have our Gen Z expert talking stage. Yeah, I think we call that now the talking stage.
I was so confused back home because we call it MU. I was like,
Yeah, MU.
It's a label, right? I was like, what is MU?
Mutual understanding. But yeah, we had a different slang for it. It's like, murag un.
Still MU.
It's like the direct translation is, it's like you're on together. Yeah. But yeah.
People now just say like, "Oh yeah, we're talking."
Oh, that's what they mean.
Oh yeah, we're
Unlocked.
Now you know.
So that's what they call it, talking stage.
At least when I was in high school, I remember calling it the talking stage.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we're just talking.
Yeah, we're
Not
just
much.
talking.
That's true, because there's no real commitment, but you're like,
Oh, that's what it means. Uh-huh. Well, that's the thing too, is that you're in the talking stage, right? And I always say to my kids, men and women interpret this stage very differently. Like, maybe to the guy that I had this talking stage with, maybe he really was just
talking.
And to me, I'm like, right? Because we never dared to enter into that conversation of defining the relationship. But
I think this is where the boundaries come in as well.
Yes, the boundaries.
Yeah, because I think we were talking earlier, and we were talking about how you think you're just friends with somebody, and then they hit you with the, "I have something to tell you," and then you're like, "No." Yeah, and it's just because like this is a person that you've told them like really deep stuff about yourself, so you feel like that deep emotional bond, and then like Christine can elaborate more on.
I find that when a guy opens up to a girl sometimes and he finds that space to really talk, he interprets that immediately as a romantic connection. And he'll immediately be like, "Oh, I like this girl. She listens to me." But girls with other girls find that with other girls all the time, having that like deep friendship. And so it can be very platonic where they talk to a guy and it can be platonic, but then and it can go deep. From my experience, I don't know, maybe it's different. and it's just me like letting the guy rant, for example, but he already interprets that as like, oh, she listens to me, kind of thing.
Is that true, guys?
Agree.
I'm gonna just say it.
Well, it depends on how much like the guy likes the girl. So it's kind of like every little conversation, I'm like, oh.
Oh.
Do you think girls and guys can be friends?
Yeah.
But it has to, but it can't go deeper, right? What do you think?
Is that what's called the friend zone?
If you think a girl and guy are friends, does it immediately translate to friend zone to guys?
No, I think there's a lot of scenarios.
Oh.
There's a lot of people who are just like friends.
Yeah.
And then the girl keeps saying no. The guys keep pursuing, and then the girls keep saying no. And then at the end of the day, that girl end up saying sure, and then they like have babies and kids. Good relationship.
And I said yes.
No, like I mean, like they have like good family and stuff. And there's other people who like
That's true. Yeah.
like kept friends, and sometimes like when the guy's really invested, then it's to set the boundaries and like what you guys are. Move on.
Do you think you can have a guy or girl best friend who's not your significant other?
Well, that just brings
Yes.
back my best friend's wedding movie memory. You guys have watched that movie? No! Okay, I'm dating myself. I'm aging myself. Well, you guys gotta watch that. My best friend's wedding, Julia Roberts.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, anyway. Sorry, were you saying?
Best friend's wedding.
Like if you were pursuing a girl and then she's like, I have a guy best friend though. Would that like send some type of signal to you, or you're like?
No,
Really?
if I would like pursue someone, I would know
Their situation.
who she is. Like I would like, I'm interested in you, and because obviously follow God, and like if that girl
Has a guy best friend.
yeah,
That's not
then
you.
it's okay.
It's not a deal.
It's
breaker.
okay because I trust her. She's Christian, right? But like she follow God and she has like sense and stuff. But like if she's gonna do that, then like obviously it's better for the long run, right? Because we don't have the same values and the same end goal and stuff, right?
What about you, Angel? What if you were like, you liked a guy and you were getting close, but then he's like, I have a girl best friend.
Well, honestly, because I have like platonic friendships with other men, and it's like brother sister type of thing. So it's really possible. But I guess I would just be like, oh, you're best friends, and I honestly like if I really like him and I trust him enough, and if they, for example, they've been best friends for a long time, I don't think that's a huge deal breaker for me. That's only, I don't know, I guess it's a case by case basis, but for me, I really think that opposite genders could be friends, and yeah, it's possible. Like I'm pretty sure listeners, not every guy that wants to have that girl as his girlfriend. I'm sure he just really just wants a friend, right?
Yeah.
We can't paint all guys as like, oh, he just wants a girlfriend,
Trust is
I would
really
be my guy's best friend. I'm just gonna put that out there. I was like, I want to be your best friend.
I want to be my boyfriend's best friend.
Yeah.
Trust plays a huge part of it. So
That's true. I'm the total opposite. That's a kind of a deal breaker.
Same. I would say it.
Kind of, yes, it is a deal
I think
breaker.
there are people that can. I think
You
it's
have to be
different.
close.
I think it's different. Like with Angel, I think there are people who can handle having their spouse or girlfriend, having their boyfriend have another best friend. I think for you, if you can do that, then
It just really depends on the person.
Yeah, it really
depends on the girl.
and
yeah.
depends on who this best friend.
Yeah,
is.
exactly. Like, is it just best friend or best friend?
Right? Again, watch my best friend's wedding.
Okay, I'll watch that.
You know what I saw online? It's like whenever you think it's okay, like girlfriend, boyfriend, but have you ever heard like a husband having a girl best friend or a wife having a guy best friend? That's not the significant
Like a
other.
brotherly type.
I don't know, just maybe food for thought. No one has to really answer anything.
No, I think like as the relationship like progress, before marriage, I think like if let's say my girlfriend would have like a guy best friend, I would set boundaries at that point. Like I would tell them right away.
Very good.
Yeah, of course.
Like of course, like it's like we're just, I guess sometimes, like especially when we're down, like we see things and we interpret it like
That's right.
like we exaggerate what we see, and it just gonna create more conflict. So
That's
in
right.
order to avoid a conflict, I think it should be like a discussion.
Yeah, communicate and don't assume.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
I want that on a shirt.
That is
Yes, that's a t-shirt.
Can we change the name of the podcast?
We can make a t-shirt.
I like that. I like that.
First episode.
But I think that's key. Like as the relationship progress, like as it develops deeper, I think that the best friend dynamic should shift.
Yes.
From, and I think it should be a natural progression, right? Because you wouldn't want your girlfriend or fiance or your wife to be confiding to another guy, or your husband to be confiding to another girl when you're not okay. Like I don't think that's healthy. I think that opens up a lot of doors for unnecessary conflicts in the marriage. It's almost like having a third wheel in your marriage.
Yeah. That's what I was
right?
like, me, you, and this girl. Like,
That does, but I think that at the very beginning stage, you also can't say, well, we can't be in this relationship. You have a best
Exactly.
friend.
Yeah.
I think you just have to.
It's going to evolve, of
That's
course.
right.
Yes, yes.
You will just have to go for it, like have that communication piece, right?
That's good.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Mila?
Ditto. I'm with Christine and Janelle.
Well, I remember when I think both kids were already born, and I had a real good friend, and he was based in Manila, right? And he called me at 11 in the evening, and your Queen Up was really livid. I was like, no guy is gonna call you at 11 o'clock in the evening because it's just not appropriate. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like we were friends, and there was no way it would be more than that. But that was not, again, setting boundaries, right? And that you have to honor your partners.
Yeah, and like tell your boyfriend or girlfriend if you're uncomfortable. Just tell them.
That's right.
Very true.
Yeah.
Don't assume. Communicate.
Exactly.
Communicate, don't assume.
Communicate. Don't assume. All right. Any other thoughts with this one, or else we're going to go to our third caller, perhaps the last caller, depending on how much time we have left. All right. I will play it for everyone here.
Hi, my name is Jeremiah, and what would you do if the person you like is not a Christian?
An oof has come from off stage. What would you do if a person you like is not Christian?
what's more important to you?
Yes.
That's all for today's episode. I would like
Yeah, like at the end of the day, what's more important? Because you know that if you really know what the truth is and what, like, the Bible says about relationships, you would know that that's just
yoked.
Not good. That's not a good path to go down because it's just not good. I don't know how to describe it. Like,
I think it depends on like if I could elaborate Janelle's statement on what is more important to you. I think it's what is your goal, right? Because I do know someone that they would say, well, this person does have a little bit, they're open. They're open. Okay, but here's the thing: in a relationship, especially in a marriage, the deepest connection is actually not physical; it's spiritual.
That's true.
The deepest connection you have with a person is spiritual, and if you are the person that you are fine settling with just mental connection, intellectual connection, emotional connection, and physical, then okay, I guess but if you really want your relationship with God to grow and be cultivated in your new relationship, then that really just defines your criteria.
Yeah.
Right? And your boundaries. That really sets your standard.
Like, there's nothing wrong with liking someone. Like, I like a lot of people, but I don't, who are not Christian. But like what Janelle said, at the end of the day, what's more important to you?
Yeah. That's true.
And even if your end goal is to end up with this person, like, is your end goal to just like chill for a little bit and then like play with each other's feelings and then deal with that, or is it like really a marriage? And then like in marriage, because you guys are a team, right? So you're already going into it as like you and your person and God versus your problems. So when you're unequally yoked, that's how the Bible puts it. When you're not pulling the same kind of load because they're not at that same like spiritual like hunger as you, or level as you. So it's already causing a rift. Like right from the beginning, you're fighting from or you're gonna fight your problems from a different angle, and it's like with all of the strife and things that can come at you during marriage, like you're already starting from a disadvantaged point. Yeah, and like is it a matter of like, are you trusting that like God has someone, or that there is someone out there? Because like, okay, for me, from a girl perspective, when you choose your like partner, like this is gonna be somebody that is like the spiritual head of your family. Like I like personally, like I've gotten to the point where that's like my non-negotiable. Like I want if I have like children, I want them to be like protected. I want them to be covered. I want them to be prayed for, because I think like that's the most important sphere to me. And just to find someone that like, because you can have chemistry with a lot of people, and I've experienced it too, and it kind of like, it can like hurt you a little bit, because you're like, oh, like I vibe with them so well, and then they make me, and then they check up all the boxes. Because honestly, I've had that kind of like experience in my life where I found somebody that checks like all the boxes of like your dream like significant other when you're younger. It's like everything except God. Like they were a Christian, but it's like Christian by name, but they're not pursuing like you are. Like they will not be at the same level. So like I feel like God really made me choose that. It's like what do you think? Like this is what you wanted, but like I'm not in it. So yeah.
Something that I always say to Milo whenever this topic comes up, and to myself, is like a boy is never worth dimming God's light. Like no boy.
That's another t-shirt.
Like no boy. Even when it the spirit, like no boy is worth diminishing what God has in store for my life. And I just know that I'm the person that like if I were to get with someone who is not a Christian, I'm a very like by nature a people pleaser person. So I know that I would intuitively dim down what God is doing in my life, because I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. I don't want them to, they don't understand what it is. So that's where I personally come at it from. Like no boy is worth it, no matter how pretty, no matter how nice, no matter how, much they check all your boxes, it won't be worth it to me.
Yeah. Amen.
Yes. Any other thoughts on that one? What about hypothetical? What about if someone is in a relationship with someone and they're both not Christian, but then one of them becomes a Christian at some point in the relationship? Do you think that they should break up with break the relationship up? Or maybe that's a different kind of
that's actually your Queen Act story. They were together. They were together when he got saved. And yeah, The Other Woman. That's another movie title. Recommendations. No. But yeah, they were in that relationship when he actually got saved and had that powerful encounter with Jesus, and went home, and he's like, okay, I guess I'm not, because in that relationship the girl was also a druggie, and so he knew, because Jesus set him free from drugs, like he knew that this relationship's not going to work, because they were in that relationship not just for the physical thing, but also because of the drugs. Like that was their main connection to drugs. And so when he went home, he broke up with her. So we all knew, because he asked us to pray for me, because I'm going to break up with this relationship. because it depends too, right? Like I'm giving a very extreme example, a real life one, but I mean, if that relationship, so many stories actually of men and women of God where one spouse got saved first, and then they brought their spouse to church, and then that spouse encountered Jesus as well.
And that's
Because
like
they're already married.
Yeah.
They're already married, yeah. But I mean, if you're still in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, ideally,
Would you advise, like, if someone came up, like a young person came up to you, would you advise them to break up with their boyfriend?
Well, I would never advise. I would always just say what the Bible says, and you make that decision, right? That's always our the way we do it. It's like they'll say, should I break up? Okay, well, this is what the Bible says: do not be equally yoked, because there is a reason for that. You are yoked up together, and all the more when this relationship has become like sexually connected too. So that creates a lot more a different pull because there is a bond there and so when you're trying to serve Jesus and you know that this relationship has had you really been compromising a lot, then that's pulling you in a different direction. But we do know we had our youth leaders before. When I was still in the youth group, we had a youth leader where they were a boyfriend, girlfriend. The girl got saved, and then she kept bringing him to youth group, and then he actually had an encounter with Jesus. So I think I don't think there's a one blanket statement. I think you really have to pray and ask the Lord and seek counsel. Yeah.
I asked that question as though I didn't know. When I was 13, I had this thing with a boy and he wasn't Christian, and I called Pastor Happy at 3 a.m. because I was so in turmoil.
What's this thing?
Turmoil. And she gave me the exact same advice.
Another term.
Another turn. Any other thoughts on that one? If not,
you've been
No, I think Happy explained it really well. But like, there's different scenarios. Because then, like, if there's a couple that's just like no drugs, like just nice to each other.
Let's take the drugs out of the equation.
No, they're like really, really good people. It's just like, but
Can you be
like,
good without God? Other topic.
yeah. I don't know.
Janelle just shut you down. No, yeah, I know what you mean. Like,
Yeah.
that's the nature of that relationship of those youth leaders that I was talking about. Yeah, they were very respectful towards each other. They really kept their relationship, pure. And even though they were not yet saved, and then when the girl got saved, that's when she started bringing the boyfriend, and they both got saved. And they became, So I think that there's no formula.
Yeah.
I think there is the principle of God, right? And you do need to seek God. And if you really want to obey God, God will honor those who honor Him. And so if that relationship is really meant to be like, but you put honoring God first, God's going to bring that person to Him if He really wants you with that person, right?
So how do you manage your feelings towards? 'Cause you still like them.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
You run.
Just run. Change your name. Leave from temptation.
I leave the country. That's a good point. I think you have to define: are you feeling a feeling, or are you feeling lust?
That's
Right.
good. Oh, yeah.
So there, it could be a feeling like butterfly feeling, but it has nothing to do with physical. I mean, like you. How do you manage those feelings? But when it comes to physical lust, like there's a reason why Paul said to Timothy, flee, not walk, not stroll, not resist, flee, because you can't underestimate sexuality. The power of your God-given sexuality. And so, yeah, I don't know if which feeling did you mean? I think it's okay to have a crush.
I think so.
I had a crush on Freddie Prinze. What do you guys think about crush?
I think it's okay to have a crush.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Agree.
That's my way.
All right, we're approaching our 90 minutes here. They keep flashing a sign. Our lovely backstage crew here. And I know I didn't prepare this in advance, and perhaps this might take you a bit off guard, but I do want to give a sign off. I don't want to give an awkward goodbye. So if everyone could just give a sign off and perhaps answer the question. Let's go with an advice to give for someone. Oh, that's too much. Maybe just like a piece of advice that you remember, that you take with you, that you remembered maybe in high school, remembered for some of the topics we talked about today.
And advice on relationships?
Sure, let's do that. Relationships.
Oh.
Just in general. Or just in general. I was thinking in general.
I think what we did touch on, tonight, but we had planned on touching, and this is what I'll share with the advice, is the whole relationship with yourself and being confident with who you are. And I think the best advice that I really received was from my mom, where she was so big about the value of confidence and character, that it's your character and your confidence that really overpowers whatever outfit you're wearing. And it's like for her, your best fashion statement is your character and your confidence, the way you carry yourself. So it doesn't matter if you're wearing just a t-shirt and shorts, but if you're respectful, if you're kind, if you're smiling, if you're bringing joy, then you're beautiful. And if the way you use your words about other people, they were very emphatic about that, about how you relate with yourself. So they were not. I really appreciate that, because there was no pressure at all in buying fancy clothes. I did not grow up with that kind of pressure in terms of like making myself look really nice, and like you can look at all my pictures, I didn't look nice. But I always, that stuck to me. It's my confidence and my character that is my best fashion beauty regimen. And so that's the best advice I would like to pass on to a lot of young women.
Let me reword my question. What's the best piece of advice that you've been given, or a piece of advice that you hold on to?
Yeah, best piece of advice would know the triggers of your problem. Because we all have problems, and we are gonna get hit with those things in a certain period of our life, and to not like taking for granted about them, and to know what triggers them. Could be social media and stuff. So, and seek God first and what He says about that. And yeah, what Ate Happy said about knowing yourself and what God tells you about yourself.
Amazing. What about you, Angel?
I was just going to say, ground yourself in Christ and have the proper foundation. A lot of people come and go in our life, and if you have your identity in Christ and on other people, when these people leave, parts of your soul won't leave with them, right? And so if you end a relationship or whatever, you may feel hurt, but you're not broken, right? Yeah.
You have so many
I know.
t-shirts.
You may be hurt, but you're not broken in Christ.
I love it.
He's okay, she's broken.
My turn. I blanked. I had something and I totally forgot. I think a piece of advice, and this is me just speaking to my past self too, is like, don't be afraid to be accountable to someone. It's so dangerous and so easy to bottle everything up and just brush it off as it'll be fine, but making sure to take the extra step, because you're gonna fail and you're always gonna be falling short. You're not perfect, so having people around you who'll be there you'll be accountable to is so important in your life. And for everyone, whether it be different things that you're going on, that you need prayer for, don't be afraid to reach out to those people, because they are there as a resource and as an asset to you.
So good. Great one.
Yeah.
How about you? Great, Brian.
For me, when I was in high school, I had an advice that I took like as a warning kind of thing. It's like, wherever you go, whatever like your state is in, I guess mentally or in your heart, wherever you go, you'll be the same. Like, don't expect like other places will cannot change that. And I was like, I was really bothered about that until like I came to CLC and got saved, and it made me realize that like it's about the heart, right? So it's like whatever's in your heart, if you don't examine it, like no matter where you go, it's still gonna be the same. You're still carrying that in your heart. So it's yeah. That's
Yeah, I guess for me, like Josh, as I was panicking, Josh was telling me what advice you would give to your 15-year-old self. And then I would say don't be afraid to be different, because I spent so much of my younger years just resenting who I was and just like who I was like finding myself to be. But I would say like just knowing God's identity for me and having that lead the way was everything. And just like, it's like, oh, like if this is the one who made everything, if this is what he says about me, like don't be afraid. Like I've spent enough time resenting like who God made me to be. And yeah, just don't be afraid to be against the flow. He said, you're in this world, but you're not of this world. You're going to feel uncomfortable, and you're going to feel like this longing, because like the Bible says it's like the eternity deposited in your heart. And what you really like long for deep inside is to be reconnected back to him. So if you have him at the forefront, like, don't be afraid to be who you are, because you're the culture changer. Like you were the one in your school, like you are like the light, the salt and light of the earth. So yeah, don't shy away from it, but embrace it, because that's what he put you here for.
Amazing.
From someone saying, "Oh, I don't know the answer."
So wow, that was so good.
Panic.
There you go.
Mine, if you want to... My best piece of advice is to like and subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our Champion Life Center Guelph. Right here on YouTube, we come out with weekly sermons that are both video and audio format, and we will be coming out with an episode 2 soon. So subscribe and stay updated for that. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, make sure to follow this account, this podcast account, to be updated right when we release our second episode. I believe when we release this, the second episode will be released the following week if all goes according to plan. So please look forward to that. Thank you for staying with us for the past, I believe it might be 100 minutes at this point. We hope that you were blessed, and I pray that God would continue to bless you wherever you go. God bless you.